Welcome back, ladies and gents, to this game number 2 here between WhiteRa and Nerchio. This time on the map, Shakuras Plateau, spawning in the lower right-hand spawn position. We have got our pink Zerg player and the winner of last game, Acer's Nerchio, and his opponent over in the lower left-hand position, WhiteRa, our red Protoss player. Again, unfortunately, WhiteRa ends up losing game number 1. WhiteRa moved out with a very strong push early on in the game off of 2 bases, and it was very effective. It was a 1-1 gateway heavy push. He also had robotics to come out with a few immortals, pretty much sitting with a lot of sentries as well to try to abuse the force field action. Now, he was able to take out Nerchio's 3rd base 2 times, but besides that, wasn't able to push any further. And with Nerchio holding on and eventually teching up, and this was one of the most crucial moments, I would say, eventually teching up into Infestors, which of course allowed him to get those Fungal Growths in play. I think that was really the tide turner at that point. We then saw a very effective counterattack from Nerchio, preventing WhiteRa from getting up a 3rd, really restricting his resources at that point, cutting back on his potential economy, which allowed Nerchio to build up a strong enough force to overwhelm WhiteRa's army, just simply because WhiteRa couldn't afford anymore. He had very limited resources off of his 2 bases after his, although effective, overall failed first 2 pushes because it didn't actually kill Nerchio, which was the plan in those. But anyways, that's enough rambling. Let's jump into this game once more from WhiteRa. We will be seeing a Forge fast expand, also trying to do a little bit of probe harass early on. We can see that Forge and Gateway now building. This time around, not going with the quick Nexus, deciding to get the Gateway first as he wants to try to work up this wall off. I guess he's really concerned about early pressure, which he should be, because we have a crazy early pool here from Nerchio. I didn't make mention of it, but at least you guys saw it. Yes, a very early pool here from Nerchio. And with that, we're going to have those Lings streaming their way across the map. The first Photon Cannon is about 1/3 of the way finished right now, and we're going to need to see a full wall off, and that's exactly what we've got here from WhiteRa, is fully walling off the front to prevent those Lings from getting in. Now, they're going to try to do some damage, but that cannon is just about finished, and with that will be forcing back the Lings. Probably going to see a cancellation of this Gateway as well. Have to assume that that's what's going to happen. Cancel the Gateway. No reason to keep that wall off up indefinitely there. Cancel the Gateway. Come out with the Cyber Core. That's what you need to do. What are you waiting for? WhiteRa killing me. WhiteRa, don't let this finish. Alright, so I could be mistaken, but yeah, I think he wanted to wait to see if we're going to see that second push, and we are. He does finally cancel it off, though. But the Lings have been softened up to such a degree that they can no longer push. Cancels it again and comes out with a Nexus. Oh, what a bunch of charades there. So what did we just see? This is exactly what we saw. We saw Nerchio realize the timing of that Gateway and push up right when it was about to finish, because he wanted to see if WhiteRa was going to let that Gateway go through, and with a cancellation attempt to actually sneak his Zerglings in. But WhiteRa very wisely waited until that was just about finished, allowing his cannons to do a little bit of damage and soften up those Zerglings, so that when he did finally cancel the Gateway and open up a path into his base, the Zergling numbers were so small that just even getting by the Photon Cannon would have been disastrous for them. So there you have it. Pretty interesting play there early on. Nerchio still with no gas. We will be seeing a quick 3rd from him yet again. There is a drone prepared to place down that 3rd base. Nerchio also chasing back a WhiteRa's probes. Now, this is not a complete wall off. We're seeing just enough space for 1 unit, and that is, of course, where the Zealot is going to sit. Warp Gate research now coming through. Nexus just about finished here for WhiteRa. He's also got the double assimilators up and running, with a 3rd assimilator coming through, so we'll be switching up very gas heavy. We'll keep an eye on his tech, see what he decides to do. Level 1 weapon upgrade also coming out right now. It looks like the Zealot will be pushing across the map, and his intended purpose, much like last game, will be to try to scout for a 3rd. So we should see that Zealot move right up into the 3rd. First push into the tower, though. And let's see if Nerchio yet again loses the Zergling. There you go, Nerchio. Congratulations, pulling back the Zergling and not losing it. It was so painful last game to watch him lose 2 Zerglings unnecessarily early on. Moving straight back to the tower, wants to see if there's anything other than that Zealot coming. Nothing at the moment, and the Zealot himself grabs the tower and then pushes towards the 3rd. Ling's also looking for hidden scouts or proxy pylons. You can see them patrolling the edge of the base there. Here comes the Zealot getting his scouting intel. WhiteRa now realizing the third's up, should just pull back. Don't. Okay, yeah, there you go. The reason we want him to pull back is because the longer he stays there, the more he risks the potential of getting taken out by some reinforcement Zerglings, and obviously don't want to lose that Zealot if at all possible. Warp Gate research almost finished here for WhiteRa, switching up Sentry Heavy, 2 sentries in play with a third one coming through. Weapons level 1 still working its way on through as well, and robotics just about finished, and that is placed right over here. What we've got going on here for Nerchio. Nerchio has a Roach Warren coming through, Layer now just starting as well. Besides that, really just working on droning up as hard as possible, 6 drones in production. So we're pretty much seeing almost the same thing here from both these players. Looks like we'll see these sentries move out a little bit early. They're just going Overlord hunting. They say, you know what, Ovi? I don't like you. Pew pew laser. So Overlord taken out here. Nerchio unfortunately taking some losses. We got a couple Zerglings moving across the map, but without the metabolic boost, even they don't really stand a chance. And look at that with the early Warp Prism out of the Robo. Gonna see a very, very early drop here from WhiteRa. Let's see how effective this is. Now the Sentry is very good simply because of the fact that they can place down a few force fields, trap in the drones, which allows for the warping of Zealots to be really, really effective. We're gonna see a warp in that we need to see a warp in, and no warp ins. Wasn't able to get that up in time. Gonna try it again. Okay, so gonna warp in 1 more sentry, fill this up with a total of 4, and then try it again. Unfortunately, now the problem is that the surprise is gone, and now Nerchio is well aware that this is coming. So we need to see some warp ins here, or no? He's just actually gonna go to trap him in and use the force field to let the sentries pick off a few units. Not too bad. As you can see, somewhat effective. Roach is able to sneak in though, and that's going to end this pretty quickly. We have a Zealot moving over in this direction. He's going to be trying to do a bit of damage. Kill off a couple of workers. Hasn't gotten anything yet. That 1 kill was from Prior, I'm guessing a Zergling. And wow, a nice micro there from Nerchio, saving all of his drones at his expansion. I'm pretty impressed. So WhiteRa, relatively failed attempt. Let's take a look at how much it was. No workers. He got no worker kills and all of that? Are you serious? I know that he killed off a queen over here, but I guess that was it. So, wow, really unfortunate there for WhiteRa. Total of 0 worker kills so far this game. That was really kind of something he was shooting for. Takes a quick third here. It's a bit risky, but not entirely impossible to pull off. A few more gateways, and also armor level 1 research coming through here for WhiteRa. Now we've got that metabolic boost now finally starting. Glob Reconstitution also almost finished as Nerchio is setting Roach Heavy. He's going to move to the center of the map, start to pick off these Immortals. Those are the first targets here as they are just so strong against the Roach. Gets the second Immortal. It's a strong force. We're going to see some Stalkers come in and try to counteract those Roaches. Nice force field wall as well there from WhiteRa. And that is going to force Nerchio back for the moment. Still about even in terms of workers lost. Saw another drop over there. WhiteRa managed to kill off 7 workers. I'm guessing that's what just happened over in that position. Yep. Killed off 7 workers in the second drop with that Warp Prism. So finally WhiteRa was able to be effective with that. Got Roaches trying to circumvent the forces at the third and push towards the natural. However, that gets spotted by WhiteRa. WhiteRa pushes out to engage. Baits all these forces back. A few more Roaches come from the other side. Roach is getting really close to WhiteRa's forces here, and that's a problem. WhiteRa tries to keep those Roaches at bay with force fields, but really unable to do so. More reinforcements. Say hello to the Spielings, and WhiteRa getting overwhelmed here. He's going to lose his Nexus and be pushed back to his natural expansion. A couple of Stalkers getting warped in on the high ground. Can't imagine really though that Nerchio is too concerned. Just pulls away from that, takes out the Nexus, and this is a major victory here for Nerchio. So WhiteRa is really going to have to do something significant to get himself back in the game after this point, because investing all those resources into this expansion to lose it, plus losing his entire force that was defending it, really hurt him. You can see how far behind WhiteRa is right now. WhiteRa attempting another drop, this time with just a bunch of Stalkers into the main. We got a few Roaches and Spielings coming. We got a Queen dancing over there. It is the Dancing Queen. Yes, that is correct. Someone must have used that joke before. Spielings and Roaches trying to push up into the natural. WhiteRa is going to be fairly well defended for now against just Spieling Roach, because he can just keep force fielding him out. But again, kind of like we saw towards the tail end of last game, what Nerchio can try to do now is just try to starve WhiteRa out, you know? Stop him from getting an expansion up. And if he can do that, then WhiteRa is going to be in a really tough position, because he is pretty far behind right now. Taking a look at the income, he is also pretty far behind in terms of what's being gathered right now. WhiteRa's got a little bit of a Vespian edge right now, but that's simply because Nerchio does not have these extractors up at the moment. He's going spieling heavy, doesn't really need them right now. Infestation pit is up, infestors building, and pathogen gland being researched. You're going to see that timing there, that the infestors will pop just after pathogen gland finishes, which gives them that energy benefit. WhiteRa mounting up a force and preparing to move out again. Now he desperately needs to either push out with a strong counterattack or get up this base. It looks like he will be going to try to get up the third. Again, one or the other is necessary because he is pretty far behind right now. And took some pretty hefty losses in that first major engagement. WhiteRa trying for another drop, this time Zealot heavy. Got a bunch of roaches chilling out there. Fungal growth on the War Prism allows that queen to get a few extra shots off. And still more even yet. WhiteRa with an observer able to take out a few creep tumors, restricting the vision of Nerchio by a little bit. And WhiteRa again trying desperately to get up this base. He's inching a little bit too close for comfort, to be honest. Nerchio has got a pretty overwhelming force right now. WhiteRa better be careful about how far he tries to push in. You can see, though, he didn't really go beyond this choke point here. Again, using these walls with a force field wall can really restrict what Nerchio can do with an overwhelming force. But WhiteRa realizing that if he stepped out into the open, that would pretty much be a big problem. Now, that is a benefit that WhiteRa has here, though, is that with these restricting points, he can use force fields to be very, very effective. Now, the issue is, what if Nerchio just bypasses all of this? Which is what he's doing. He's bypassing all of this to try to prepare to hit this base, and if you see WhiteRa, there's the fungal growth. Alright, it's about to go down, guys. With Nerchio now pushing up into the natural expansion, WhiteRa trying to flank from this side. He's going to be taking hefty losses while all of this is happening, though. Oh boy, Nerchio losing some very high value units there without doing anything. Those infestors got sniped down. A few roaches still wreaking havoc in the natural right now. Looks like WhiteRa will be able to defeat this force over here of Nerchio's, but Nerchio again doing a lot of damage over here, killing off a few buildings, unpowering everything up there as well. He's now streaming his way into the main base. Significant damage, all the meanwhile coming out with another base as well. WhiteRa did attempt a little bit of an engagement over there. It looks like, however, that got taken care of, and Nerchio still doing some damage. Take a look at the workers killed so far this game. Nerchio pulling off 24 workers. Got a few forces trying to push over here. Cannons prevent that from happening. Another warp in from WhiteRa over here in the main base of Nerchio. Gonna do some hunting. Going straight for the queen. Deciding to just pull back. Looks like all those units moving back. A few more zealots getting warped in as well. Nerchio deciding to pull back right now. Now again, he has done some pretty significant damage, but this counterattack from WhiteRa is being fairly effective, to be honest. Zealots killing off workers. What is Nerchio doing? There you go. Pulling down with those roaches and spielings. Fungal growth on the zealots. Manages to take out only one of them, though, as the other three get lifted up. And WhiteRa is just going to stay here and continue to wreak havoc, basically force Nerchio to keep units here to defend. Lifting up again, saving it. Wow. Nerchio says his roaches are stupid. Yes, blame the unit. It is the unit's fault. Oh, huge error. Got 5 guys trying to mine from this one assimilator. At most, you can have 3. So, as you can see, there's just a bunch of idle sitting. Not actually mining. That's quite unfortunate there. Obviously, a oversight there by WhiteRa. Keep an eye on WhiteRa Vision. Want to see if he attempts any other engagements. Looks like he's just going to keep moving in here with the roaches, with the War Prism. However, we do have roaches defending for Nerchio. So Nerchio actually should be okay now with these 4 roaches. The 3 zealots really won't be able to do too much. 1 zealot gone. Gonna try to do a little bit more damage. Takes out the queen. Oh my. Big engagement coming down over here. Speedlings and Roaches. We got a few Infestors placing Fungal Growths, rooting those units in place. However, with that force field wall, the Roaches can't actually fully engage there. So forcing them back. War Prism still coming out with even more harass. WhiteRa is just all over this. And the biggest thing here for WhiteRa is it is continuously forcing Nerchio back. So it's making it so that Nerchio is not as eager to engage when he has to worry about the constant threat of this War Prism. Gosh, how much just a couple of mutas would help him right now, huh? And speaking of which, we do have a Spire coming through. Being built, oh no, where's that Spire being built? Is it being built over here? Yeah, there it is, trying to hide it underneath the Overlords. Nerchio says, you can't see a Spire. There's no Spire. Roaches, a few Speedlings, and Infestors is still the composition of choice here for Nerchio. Coming out with a few Corruptors. Now that can deal with the War Prism, but those Corruptors are primarily for Colossus here that we're seeing from WhiteRa. Gonna see a few more Zealots. Moving in, and are they going straight for the Spire? Yes, they are. So WhiteRa wasn't fooled. He sees that Spire. However, some Roaches will be forcing back those Zealots. And now those Corruptors are about to pop. We should see the end of the War Prism harass. And then maybe at that point, too, Nerchio will be confident enough to push out now that he's going to have a response for those Colossus. So War Prism just chilling out over there. Corruptors actually not even bothering to try to deal with that right now. They should be, though. WhiteRa sitting idly in the center of the map. We do have a Dark Shrine also coming out, so we'll be attempting a bit of harass with that. Also, of course, can use those to get some Dark Templar. I'm sorry, to get some Archons into play. So maybe a little bit of DT harass, also throwing some Archons into the mix. Dropping yet again. Roaches come down to meet it. And he's pretty much all set. Takes care of those few Zealots without issue. One Zealot left, that gets dropped. And there you go, so pretty stale in the later portion of this game here as both players are macroing up. WhiteRa just continuously tries to harass. War Prism finally gets taken out by the Corruptors. WhiteRa looks a bit outmatched right now. 134 supply for Nerchio as opposed to the 80 of WhiteRa. He's going to have a hard time once this engagement comes. We also have a bunch of Spine Crawlers here in the center of the map, so this is obviously nothing that WhiteRa can push against without taking some losses. And here we go, Speedling Roach. Infestor Corruptors move forward to try to take out those Colossus. Stalkers want to try to snipe him down, but there are so few Stalkers right now, and the Corruptors take so very long to take out. That Colossus is gone. This Colossus is gone shortly as well. Nerchio overwhelming WhiteRa in the center of the map, and that is it. WhiteRa calls good game, and there goes the series. Alright, my friends, that does it in this series here between WhiteRa and Nerchio. Nerchio ends up taking the series 2-0. WhiteRa having a really hard time this game. He attempted that War Prism harass, but unfortunately, although was able to do a little bit of damage, not quite enough to obtain a victory. So there you go, Nerchio winning 2-0. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, if you like the content, please subscribe, and don't forget, keep watching and keep owning.